Hey everybody, Grave Rose here, and today I thought I'd show you how I rolled my own command and control server. I'm using this primarily for device administration, and hopefully you'll find this helpful and interesting. So, in a real-world situation, these devices would be behind firewalls, both at your site and the customer's site. For the purpose of the demonstration, I've got both these machines on the 1.1.1.0/24 subnet. They're literally right beside each other with .1 and .2. Again, for this demonstration, I'm not going to be going into how to purchase a domain name or how to enable TLS or virtual hosts or anything along those lines. These are security things that you should implement yourself. And if you wanted to, you can get extremely paranoid and do things like certificate-based authentication specifically for subdirectories. But again, that's kind of outside the scope of this video here. I just wanted to demonstrate how this can be done very quickly and something that you can do yourself. I have a post regarding this on Medium, and I'll put the link in the description if you want to take a look at that. And let's just get to it here, shall we? So on the left-hand side, we have our C2 server. On the right-hand side is the CPE. So the way that we need to set this up is so that the CPE can set up an SSH reverse tunnel on the server, so that when we SSH to a specific port on the server, it will then connect us to the CPE. Now, we want this to be done in an automatic fashion. We don't want to have the customer or the client or whomever to have to do keyboard interaction and set up the SSH tunnel for us. So to get that working, we're going to set up public key authentication, but we are not going to have a passphrase on our public key. So to do this on the CPE device, we do SSH keygen. And at some point, as you can see here, it'll say enter passphrase or empty for no passphrase. So we're going to press enter both times. And now we have an SSH key that has no passphrase. To be able to use this key on the server, we then have to copy that ID over to the server. So we do that with SSH copy ID. And we put in our username at the server. Put in our password. And now you can see that if we go over to the C2 server itself and take a look at the authorized keys, you can see that that's in there. And we test that out by just running SSH. And as you can see, we're logged in. If we run the W command on the the C2 device, you can see that we are logged in from 1.1.1.2. Now, one of the things I strongly recommend in terms of security is editing the authorized keys to make sure that we can only run one specific command. And that command is just going to be the echo command. So we're going to edit the authorized keys. And at the start of the line for the key, we put in command equals echo and a space. There we go. The reason that we're doing this is on the CPE device, when this is installed at the customer location, we don't know what the customer could be doing there, right? There could be a threat actor or bad guy, whatever you want to say, that decides that they boot the CPE device into single user mode, they overwrite the root password or the root account, and they now have access to that SSH key that doesn't have a passphrase, which means that they can then log into the C2 device, right? We don't want them to do that at all. So now that we've prepended the authorized key with that, if we rerun our SSH command, you see all it does is echo a blank line and then close the connection. So even if that device gets compromised, there are no commands that are able to be run on the server because of the authorized key that we've got put in place. That being said, let's take a look at the script that we're going to run here. And again, this is on the Medium post that will be linked in the description. We have our variables that we start off with, and we've got the URL, so that in a real world situation, that should be HTTPS, not HTTP. It shouldn't necessarily be the IP address, it should be the domain name. The check.html can be whatever you want. There's no actual HTML, it's just a flat file. The L port is the local port on the CPE device that we want to connect to, and the R port is the TCP port that we want to open to create a socket on the C2 device. So this will make sense eventually. It gets a little bit confusing here, but what we're going to do is we're going to open up TCP 2000 on the C2 server once our SSH connection is made, and then any traffic that gets sent to the C2 server on TCP port 2000 will automatically get forwarded through the SSH tunnel that has been set up by the CPE device, and then pop out the CPE device and go to the destination that we want. The destination that we are going to specify is 127.0.0.1, which is the loopback address of, well, everything really. So it's then going to connect to the L port variable on that IP address, which is SSH, which is TCP/22. So anything going into 2000 will go through the SSH tunnel and then go to the CPE device on port 22. You can see the if, else, and elif statements that we have. We have two results, which is going to be either start or stop. And if it's start, then we start our session. If it's stop, then we kill the session. We do have an else that says got here, which is my way of doing traps, if you want to consider them that way. If it's something that's not start or stop, we can do something there. So speaking of which, let's take a look over on the C2 server, and if we cat check.html, you can see it says start. What we're going to do first is we're going to edit that so that it says stop. And when you set this up for deployment, you want to make sure that it says stop to begin with, because you don't want shells automatically popping up. Now, speaking of shells popping up, how do we make it so that the CPE device actually goes out and queries the C2 server? And we're going to do that with a cron job. I've already got it put in there, but this is going to run once a minute. So every minute, we're going to call the script that we just had up on screen. And if we cat that again, the main thing is that it's going to run the curl command, and it's going to send the contents of the check.html file to a temp file, right? So we're going to drop that under temp check. And right now, if we cat temp check, you can see it says stop. So what we're going to do is we're now going to initiate the connection. So on our C2 server, we again edit our check.html file, change that from stop to start. And I have a while loop in my history. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look, and we're on the C2 server, and we're going to look for TCP 2000 to get opened up. Now this could take upwards of a minute, because that's how long our cron job is set for. And when that kicks off, when the SSH connection opens up from the CPE device to the C2 server, we will see the output of the netstat show up on the left-hand side. So we'll give this, hopefully, just a few more seconds. Now, once that pops up, we know that the SSH connection is successful. There it is. And if you are logging this information, you can write a very easy wrapper to send this to syslog or to a SIM or a SIEM. Setting up pam.d to take a look at set up PAM to generate events based on SSH logins. You can do that as well too. Anyway, regardless of that, we can now see that TCP 2000 is listening on the C2 server. So if we SSH to the local host, right, and this again is on the C2 server, but we do port 2000, and we go to our C2 or our CPE, you can see that we're logged in. So that's the way that the SSH reverse tunnel works. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you found it informative. And as always, happy hacking.